Hello, this is Harriet Grayson, your host and producer for Community Culture Showcase. And we're in the middle of a heat wave here in southeast Connecticut and southern Rhode Island, and try to get through this heat. We have with us a hot number about a music magazine and its editor, publisher, who's been around the block a few times and can tell us stories that go back decades about some of rock and roll's heroes and heroines. So yeah, we were in for a really good rockin' and rollin' show today. And I also have with me an old friend who I've known for many years, Elizabeth, who's now taken on the role of a food columnist. Wow, okay, so we have to follow Elizabeth on her trails to find out what's cooking all over the neighborhood. So let me welcome my guests, Dave.
Good morning.
Elizabeth. So tell us, everybody. Dave, I'll start with you. Tell me who you are and why my audience should be interested in a guy like you.
Well, Dave Pottie, I'm publisher of the magazine, Sound Waves magazine, which is the entertainment and dining guide for the region. And we've been doing this for, like I said, for 32 years, and it's a good source of information to find out what to do for an evening. In order to go out to dining, go out to listen to music, just find something to do in our region here. It's like just a great place to live.
So tell me how, if someone in my audience wants to pick up a copy of the magazine or see it online, how do we go about doing that?
It's at various locations from South County to Old Saybrook, New London County, Windham County. But if, I like the hard copy, like a lot of people do. But,
right.
But you can go online to swaves.com and view it. And it's a page flip technology where you looking at the magazine and you're flipping the pages, but we can add interactive things to it. We can have a pop-up video, like some of my clients will have a commercial.
Okay.
Or the CDs review, you can actually listen to the CDs.
Right.
With the online version. And that, anywhere in the world you can look at that.
So tell me, are you a musician? Is that your background?
Surprisingly, no.
Oh, okay.
95% of my friends are musicians.
Okay.
I've always been asked, I've never had the patience. They say, what instrument do you play? So I play a good tape deck.
Okay, all right. So what got you interested in writing about musicians if you yourself really aren't a musician?
I write a little. I've got a good staff of writers, Elizabeth for one.
Oh, yes.
And I was a photographer for Rolling Stone, a guitar player. And there was another magazine here called Rock Facts, and he didn't make it. And there were these jam sessions going on all the time. Everybody was saying, do a magazine. Too much of a headache. I don't want to do it. The owner of the old Island House came out with a check and said, do the magazine. That's how it started.
Okay. And you're someone that has been watching and following music for decades now. What do you think's been happening in the music business? How has it really changed?
I like all music. There's some that I can listen to all night. There's some that one or two songs I can listen to. But it's it's the talent of the artist and the dedication they have, and how much they're into what they're doing. And a lot of the music's good.
And how has it changed, and how have the artists changed? Because my goal when I was a kid going to college, even in high school, we wanted to have a garage band, so I might be older than you are. We wanted to have this garage band. We wanted to be like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. We wanted to really just get a couple of really good hit records, and then we would be millionaires. Of course, I can't count any friend who's even currently a musician. I was basically a terrible musician, but it didn't matter because that was the things that were going on. I mean, you didn't have to be good. No. You just had to have, a promotion of some kind.
You had to enjoy what you were doing.
Maybe.
Yeah. Because music is like, it's the cure for a lot of things. Without music, this world would be, as they said, one T-shirt, without music, the world would be B flat.
Right, right. And so I remember, having this great love for music. And I, in my college days, actually was the arts reviewer for my college newspaper. And as part of the only really great thing about it was, one, I got free albums. And 2, I got free invites to all kinds of shows. Now, I went to school in New York City, so I mean, there was music
Must have seen some good stuff.
everywhere. Oh my God, we saw lots of stuff. And I also just coincidentally, I was also the only one who had a classical music background.
Yeah.
So nobody wanted to go to classical stuff. So I went to all the classical shows, and they brought a lot of talent to the university itself. And of course, New York City, the home of some of the greatest composers.
Oh yeah,
and
I love classical music. I go to see the Eastern Connecticut Symphony whenever, at the Guard Theater up in New Britain, the New Britain Symphony. I've got a friend, she's violist in the symphony orchestra, and I always tell her, I said, you're just an 1800s cover band.
I like that.
That's very good. That's very good. And my husband, through United Theater in Westerly, through the Rhode Island Philharmonic, is actually taking music theory lessons.
Yeah, I saw the schedule. It's going to have some good stuff.
Yes.
Another nonprofit out in Middletown, Buttonwood, they're bringing some stuff in, some good violin players, and the symphony stuff.
Right. Exactly.
But all music is good.
Okay.
As long as you enjoy it, and even some rap, even some other stuff, all that stuff I appreciate. As long as, like I said, it's done good.
Well, Westerly has devoted itself. It has twice a week during the summer months. It has these free shows for the public to come and see, blues and whatever else. Monday and Wednesday they have the free shows on the beach.
Oh yeah.
So we, as a seasonal community, and Mystic, and Old Mystic, bring in these people for the summer months to entertain people. So let me ask you this: since you've been, have you ever thought of yourself through the magazine as being a music promoter?
I tried a few times, a few things. Well, when I was in college, I was second in charge for the Columbia Music Hall with Bob Donnell, and the people who put on their first concerts with us were Jim Koplik and Shelley Finkel. He started Live Nation. He's the biggest basic concert promoter.
Okay.
So I got my hands in that a lot, when I was in college. But the aspect you said about this area and the music we have, that's what the magazine tries to promote and people to pick up to find out, because there's something every day going on here, and a lot of it's free. Monday you had the Blue Mondays, Tuesday you had the Watch Hill, Wednesdays you got Blues on the Beach, Thursdays you got Esker Point, and Fridays you got Washington Park. And it's all free to the public.
Right, exactly so. So you have had a relationship with a lot of famous musicians that you might want to share with us, a few tales out of school about these
well,
particular
one of them, Willie Nelson.
Willie Nelson,
Yeah,
that's a family name. Yeah.
I survived this bus 3 times. And then we got one picture. We were on there, and I was able to get him to wear a Stashes T-shirt, and he's there posing for us. I think he has the photo back there for that.
Yeah, definitely. So what do you think is responsible? There we go. What do you think is responsible, since you've seen lots of musicians come and go, for his success? Why is he successful, and maybe somebody out there scrambling years and years can't make a dent?
It's hard to say. There's some people that I've seen over the past that I thought they were fantastic, but they never seem to make it. Just never made the stardom that you think they would make. And then there are some that you're surprised that they got as high as they did.
Right. Has anybody come out of this area that's become really famous?
There's been a few. We just had Goose on the cover. They're very popular with the 15 to 30-year-old, and they're from Connecticut. You got a bunch of people from Connecticut. It's just trying to remember who they are. Most of all, you got Ryan Montbleu. He played at Esker Point quite a bit because he has family here.
Okay.
And he became a national star, but you used to see him every summer just for free there.
Okay.
And there are a few. Can't think of them all right now, but
no, that's all right. But you have so many.
But we got like Duke Robillard, we got Sugar Ray Norris here, we got the Rhode Island blues scene. You got the Connecticut blues scene with David Foster, Jack Scarangella. There are just so many of them. The whole list, and that's the blues scene that I'm more familiar with. And you got some in the country scene and some in the rhythm and blues.
Right,
But-
right.
But
I love
That's-
the comment about seeing people before they get famous, or even after they start to get famous, they come back
yeah,
to the shoreline to spend part of their summer where we're spending all of our time, but where people come to summer all the time.
Right.
Well, it's like we were the first to put Susan Tedeschi on the cover of a magazine. She was from Boston. This was the club in Springfield that she was playing at.
Springfield,
And
Mass.
she is 17 years old, and she had to get permit. Her parents had to come.
Yeah.
That's her first cover on a
Okay.
magazine.
All right.
And that
She
And
was,
does look young. Yeah.
And who is this singer?
she's a very good blues guitar player, and she's married to Devin Allman, I'm trying to remember which one she's married.
Right.
But,
They come and go.
But
These things.
yeah,
yes,
but anyways, she's really good. And like this month's issue, we did an interview with Grace Potter, and we were the first to put her on a cover of a magazine. She played at McCook's Park like 15 years ago.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's this month's issue.
Right.
And then
right.
he's got the one back there shows Grace hold the magazine, the difference in the way she looks and everything from being a superstar. That's the one coming out there. There's Grace. Yeah.
Okay. Now, how did you meet this woman?
She was at McCook's and somebody said this girl's going places. I listened to some stuff. I told my writers, I want to cover her. Let's do it. And we've done the Killers or another group. Jewel, and we've done a bunch of different artists. We were their first. Oh, Anna Popovic, she's a nationally known, a worldwide known star, and we were the first to put her on an issue in the United States in like 2003.
Okay. And how do you pick these people? I mean, how do you say, oh, okay, this is the one I'm going to put on the cover?
I listen to music, and I've got a couple good writers like Bill Harriman's a really good one. He comes up with these artists that I never even heard of. He said, you got to give this a listen, and listen to it. And I'm, surprised how good it is. And, there's a lot of up and coming people, that's still, like I said, there are a lot of good musicians out there. But it's like a professional baseball team. There are 100,000 people trying in the minor leagues, and only so many make it to the majors.
Right, right. Do you think that you've had a good handle on who's going to make it? Like the people that you put on your covers, or do you have a sense that, they're
Sorta.
not quite famous yet, but I think they're going somewhere?
Sorta, I'm getting up there, and my age brackets and my group is like mine's Stevie Ray Vaughan and Rolling Stones and Aerosmith and all that back in. But some of the new people coming up, it's like I'll ask my nieces and nephews. And
Oh, nice.
yeah, there's this with the Stevie. But it's like my niece. She's in her 30s, 40s, and nephews, and I ask them what they think.
You have this little informal panel of deciders among
Yeah.
family members.
Influencers. They're called
Influencers.
influencers.
Thank you, giving me the right terminology.
But it's like last month's issue was Goose, and I never heard of them.
Okay.
And they had 2 dates at the Westville Music Hall in Bridgeport area, or New Haven, and they sold out in 4 hours of 2 shows.
Wow. Now I must admit I never heard of them.
Yeah.
I think
We're
that'd
over
be-
30.
Yeah, that's something that you have for Thanksgiving dinner, right?
Yeah,
And so, who got you to the attention of Goose? I mean, somebody came. to
that
you
was
and said,
my writer Bill Harriman. He told me about it. Well, he's the jam scene's real big with Fish and String Cheese Incident and all that group of people. Basically, a Grateful Dead, line of music in a way.
Well, I have to say, one of my son-in-laws is a big Fish fan, and actually goes around the country with his brother. I
Yeah.
mean, and he's in his 40s, and they go to these Fish concerts, which is like a remarkable. In fact, it's the only reason that I think he came. He agreed that we should have Thanksgiving dinner at my house in 2019 because Fish was playing in Providence. Otherwise, I hadn't seen him in my Thanksgiving dinner at my house they've been married like, I don't know, more than 15 years. I think it was like the second time. And it was only because of Fish. God
Yeah.
bless Fish.
Yeah.
And I've never heard them. nor have I ever seen them.
Well, that whole jam scene has like, like dedicated followers.
Oh, yes.
I mean, I got a friend of mine, he helped his son build this food truck, and he's following the Dead Company around the country.
With the food truck.
Yeah,
Well, and he sleeps in the food truck?
I think so.
How creative.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
But he gets to listen to his band he
Oh,
likes and
yes, yes.
experience that scene. Because, I've seen a lot of concerts in my time, especially when I was a photographer. I did over 360 concerts. And they're like, some people are just amazing to see live.
Right.
And then it's like, it's just an experience in itself, just seeing some people live. It's almost like if you like anywhere, even a symphony, a really good symphony, a really good set they do, that's just moving too.
Right.
Or you just see like a Grateful Dead show or a Frank Zappa show or, a rock and roll show, they're all like, music is, a source of enhancement to life.
I'm just curious, did you own the photographs you took for Rolling Stone, or did they own it? And I'm only asking could you put together a compilation of the photographs from these, really famous...
I'm thinking of it. My brother-in-law wants me to, put together a book together about different stuff.
Because in our nostalgia, we look back at that time and say, wow, that was the time to listen to music. So I was just curious about whether you would, since you are a publisher, whether you would have interest in
And when I
doing that.
remember about those shows, you remember is like, how much did you pay for a show? Like I said, I saw the Dead, the Allman Brothers, and Doug the Sham and the Pharaohs down in Washington, D.C., and tickets were $10.
Right. Well, what about once upon a time, New York City, Central Park? All those concerts were free.
Yeah.
You'd have to stand online for a couple of hours.
And now look at the controversy with Bruce Springsteen tour. And some of the tickets are like $3,000. I mean,
really? Yeah, exactly.
I like the days when they were $10, $5,
Right.
$8.
Exactly. Well, then it's like asking for the telephone to be 10 cents, but we can think about it.
Like Janis Joplin played in an auditorium in Providence, in Rhode Island, and tickets were like $5.
Yeah.
It's like,
Exactly.
But those are the soundtracks of our lives. I mean, we look back on, we listen to music and we have memories that are triggered, or we have experiences now, and those soundtracks are everything.
Yeah.
Because it's not just our ears that are hearing, it's our heart, or in the case of live music, you're feeling it.
Yeah.
And it impacts
It all had
you.
a meaning and something to you, especially as you're growing up. You remember soundtracks that you had. And a lot of the music from the 60s, 70s is still being played all the time or copied.
Right. Exactly. Let's shift a little bit. So how did food get in with music? And so now you're following the footsteps of another columnist. However, food, music, is there a connection? Do you feel it?
People that listen to music like to eat,
But
and
doesn't
vice
everybody?
versa. It's funny because I've been reading sound waves for a while.
The idea of the magazine. See, I sort of got stereotyped into a music magazine, where it's a magazine to pick up to find out what to do. And I've always had food writers, like we had Jack Chaplin, Daddy Jacks, that everybody loved, and passed away last year. A big loss for everybody. And I had a little moratorium just out of respect for Jack. And Elizabeth here, we had the same post office. So we talked a couple times and all that, and then and she said she'd like to start doing so. And her section is just as important, because my magazine is to find out where to go to eat, where to go to listen to music, and she covers the food aspect perfectly.
So what makes
thank you.
a restaurant desirable for you to review?
Well,
What do you pick up?
I'd love to back up a little bit, because before I wrote my first column for Soundwaves, I had a really cool experience at a local sandwich shop, and when the opportunity came up to write about them, I thought, great, nobody's ever going to believe that my entire day was changed because I got this amazing sandwich. But that's what happened, and that's what I wrote about in the July issue. So go figure. I'm a foodie, I admit it, I embrace it, and actually for the past 7 years, I've been sort of a cheerleader, tour guide for the greater Mystic area in different different facets. I've been writing about food and fun things to do, starting with thisismystic.com. I did that for years, and then Mystic Neighbors magazine. I would write about food there too. And really, I've had some articles on a bunch of different subjects, but it all sort of comes back to what I really, really love is I love writing about music, good food, and a lot of the places that advertise in sound waves happen to have live music as well. So it's really a good meshing of interests. I don't go out to listen to music a lot, but I have to say the Grace Potter interview that Allie Kaufman wrote for this month was so powerful that I am planning to go see her Labor Day weekend at Ninigret Park in Charlestown.
She's highlighting one night.
The beauty of the digital format is I got to hear her music when I went online to read the magazine. That absolutely changed my mind. I'd never heard of this musician, and now I'm a fan. I can't wait to buy her music and then go see her live. I think it'll be transformative. Well, what's also there? Food trucks. So it's really a good match. And the nice thing about it is a lot of the restaurants that we're starting with are the restaurants that maybe the locals know about, maybe they don't, maybe they forgot how good they are. This is the article that's in the August magazine, and I tell that story about that great sandwich, and I won't even tell you what the sandwich is. You really need to read the article, but just let me tell you, it's got a funny name, and it absolutely knocked my socks off. So much so that I tried eating far more than anybody should in one sitting. So I really recommend it, and that's Pasta Fresca in the little Italian deli near the train station in Mystic.
Wow.
It has a really loyal following, and what was fun about that was I had been in there, but this one day somebody said, listen, you've got to go and get this sandwich today. It's a special, and that changed everything.
Tea is great. The lady that runs it.
She is. She treats
she's
everybody
younger than
like
me, and
family.
I joke that she's my grandmother because the food is like what your grandmother cooked.
Yeah, okay.
But she's everybody's, and that's the fun
Yeah.
thing about. So that's what makes that place special. And each month, it's really a different take on maybe the place you know, maybe it's somebody or some place you've never heard of before. I'm going to try to get a little bit behind the scenes to remind people, if they already like it, how great it is and they should go. I never lose sight of the fact that locals are reading this, not just people coming in from out of town. I think it's a good match of both. Because if you're local, you also want to know where to go to get good food, and maybe you'd like a little bit of insight into that. Maybe you don't trust Google reviews or Yelp reviews, I don't know. But, and if you're coming in from out of town and you're planning to go to a local show, then you want to know where to eat. And it's just a nice little bit of insight into what's going on in the area with food. And it's been fun writing about food in this area because it never gets boring. If you're bored around here with the food or the entertainment, go get checked out because there's something wrong with you. There's so much to do here.
Well, I think, was it Mystic area just in the top 5 of culinary destinations in the country?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know.
think, or New England anyway.
I
I think it was top in New England or something like
I
that.
think it was the New York Times. And what's fun about that is just before COVID, I actually wrote an article for the Groton Economic Development Commission about culinary tourism. And it's really a fun article. It's still out there. If you can spell my name, and it'll show up on the screen there at some point. If you can spell my name, if you just Google that, that pops right up along with some other articles. But what was neat about that was to be able to talk to the up and coming people that keep investing in the area because they know that this is the place to come. And what's happened in the meantime, just in the last couple of years, is now all these up and coming chefs deliberately come to this area to move forward in their careers because they know this is where they're going to get the experience, they're going to get to work with amazing people, and they're going to have a built-in, very appreciative audience.
Yep.
And
I've got a nephew that my brother named after me. He's a chef. He made top chef in Connecticut 3 out of 5 years.
Wow, what's his name? Share that.
Dave Pottie, same name.
Oh.
can I share my Dave Pottie story though?
Sure.
So the very first restaurant I reviewed was Friar Tuck's, back when
Okay.
it first opened. When it was in that little hole in the wall, it had the Hobbit door and everything, if you know the area.
Yes.
And the place looked like a man cave, but the food was phenomenal. And I got to meet this young chef, and he was fun to talk to and everything. And I got posted and everything. And a few years later, I'm with Mystic Neighbors magazine. I run across him. He's at a neighbor's barbecue. And I said, wait a minute, you look familiar. And he said who he was. And I said, wait a minute. We made the connection. And I end up featuring him in Mystic Neighbors magazine because wherever he has gone, the food has just transformed.
They won top awards, and you know.
People follow him because wherever he goes, that's where you want to go eat.
Yeah.
You just do. He's that talented.
Interesting, interesting.
And he happens to be related to
Yeah,
his
same name.
namesake.
Right.
There's two of us in Mystic.
Oh, okay. All right. That's great. Now, I know you from your lobster days.
Yes.
Because that is like, what woman goes lobster fishing? You. So tell us a little bit about that incredible, and the book that you wrote as a result of those experiences.
Well, thank you for asking. I've been telling people for years I had this really weird hobby because my husband thought it was a good idea. So when I moved to the area, I thought Stonington was nice. I thought Mystic was nice. I didn't love it. I just thought it was okay. And then I got out on the water kayaking. Mentioned to my husband I thought it would be fun to fish from my kayak, never having fished before. And he envisioned becoming a widower. So he got a little boat, fixed it up, we got out on the water. It was way too small. We sold it, we got something a little bigger that needed a lot of work, and that was our winter. And in the meantime, I tried fishing, and I was terrible. I never asked anybody's opinion. I never watched videos. I not only didn't catch anything, but I was very, very good at leaving gear in rocks and things. So I came home one day, and there was this weird thing on my porch, and I said, what's that? And my husband said, oh, it's a lobster pot, and you have 9 more just like it. And I said, you've got to be kidding. So what ended up happening was I ended up with lobster pots and a lobstering hobby, and I wrote about it in this book, Lobster Summer. And I ended up writing about it because I was having these experiences, and I was thinking, listen, I was not even remotely nautical before I moved here, and all of a sudden I'm doing this weird hobby. And I was catching dinner, and I was successful, and I learned how to line catch. Never prepared any seafood in my life, even though I'm a really competent cook. Learned how to catch seafood, learned how to process it, cook it, developed recipes, came up with a lot of stories. There's just something really funny about a woman who's over the age of 50 that decides to take on a very non-traditional hobby that's been really fun. But that's what launched a whole writing career. I couldn't take everybody on my little tiny boat. I have an 18-foot open skiff. I call it my tender. If I had a huge boat, it would bring me to my big boat, but I don't. I just have this little boat. But every time I had these great experiences, I thought, well, I wish I could bring more people with me. And I couldn't, so I wrote it all down. So everything in here is just from the standpoint of, wow, I had to learn about tides, I had to learn all these things. I just had no idea how ignorant I was. But what happened is it transformed me. I'm no longer a landlubber. I am gonna live in Stonington forever. I love it here, and it just changed everything. But it inspired me to write down my experiences. And I loved it so much, I kept writing, and then I ended up with all these writing opportunities. And it was just fun recently to just stop everything and just say, what do I really want to do? And that's when I crossed paths with Dave, because I thought to myself, I've had the most fun writing about food. Mm-hmm. So here we are, and I happen to have really good recipes for lobster, by the way, including some of my very own, including lobster mashed potato puffs. They're fabulous. I should get a local restaurant to make them. They'd be a big hit.
Yes.
But it's just been fun, and I've really learned to just say yes to everything. One of the things that's been fun is I've also been able to do lots of extra activities that I maybe wouldn't have. I've gone ziplining a bunch of times and written about it. I've eaten at great local restaurants and written about it. I've written about lots of activities in the area and written about it. And it's just always good to try new things. Like I'm a new Grace Potter fan. Go see Grace Potter Labor Day weekend in Charlestown.
In Ninigret Park.
At Ninigret Park, that's right. And listen, life is too short. I really just a few years ago started saying, what am I waiting for? And I never had a good answer for myself. So I would go and I would try more and more new things. Now, fortunately, I haven't broken any bones, destroyed any cars, or completely destroyed any relationships. All that's happened is my life has become richer, and I've learned more about the area and loved it more and more and more.
Well, I can certainly, I love living around here. And my grandfather was a fisherman, and I am Jewish, so it's fairly unusual. But that's what he did for a living. And in 1920, in the beginning of Prohibition, Dutch Schultz, the gangster, came to visit my grandfather and wanted to enlist him in his
Smuggling.
bootlegging operations. And I write about that because my mother would tell me stories, and one of her sisters would tell me stories about how he was involved with this Dutch Schultz, and that everyone in the neighborhood was afraid of them because Dutch Schultz was notorious thug, really. I mean, he was absolutely not a nice guy.
Was it hard to say no to him?
It was impossible to say no to him, is what my mother would say. And occasionally, my grandfather was probably high up there in the Dutch Schultz hierarchy, because the police used to come after him. And he was born in America, but his family's roots were in Eastern Europe, and he would actually go back to Eastern Europe and hide for months and then come back. And my mother used to talk about that, how all of a sudden they had money, and then all of a sudden they had no money, and they were living on whatever, some money he had put aside, or some relatives would give them some money. And that was an interesting thing. And of course, Prohibition lasts for 13 years, and it's President Roosevelt who ends Prohibition by decree. He ran in 1932 on that message to end Prohibition. And why did they want to end Prohibition? Not because they were interested in not having the police go and interrogate these people. They wanted to tax it.
Oh yeah.
And that is the catalyst for why Roosevelt ended Prohibition, because they wanted to regulate it and tax it.
That's the reason for a big reason for regulating marijuana now.
Exactly, same mindset. And in fact, in 1931, the state of Nevada legalizes gambling, the first state in the whole country, and they did it for the same reason. They knew what was going on, and they wanted to regulate it and tax it. But it took, at least in Nevada, it took till 1947, and Bugsy Siegel and the Flamingo Hotel to really see that as a real moneymaker. And of course, then it was a place to hide money from the government.
Oh yeah.
And most of the gangsters who get arrested during Prohibition are not arrested for any of the other terrible things they did.
Tax evasion?
Exactly. Which is what Dutch Schultz is finally prosecuted for. And my grandfather bought up a bunch of businesses, and that's where he hid the money. Go through to launder it through these businesses. That's my story.
Yeah, my great aunt, her husband was on the other side of the law, and he caught some smugglers crossing the border, and he didn't get out of there alive.
Oh no!
But
these people meant business, because there was millions and millions of dollars involved. So if anybody's interested in the era, it's Accidental Gangster, Dutch Schultz and Me, my grandfather's story.
I think
about being
New
a
London
bootlegger.
wasn't New London a big place for a product of making, like it was mash or something. The main product of it came in to New London, and then it was shipped. Then it went to like Bermuda or wherever to be processed. But I think New London was one of the major ports for that in the country.
Well, it's conveniently located to so much.
That's why the water history, like a lot of people, like you said when you first came here, but once you get on the water and experience the area, it's just like you fall in love with the place.
Right. Well, I've spent, my mother spent almost her entire life on the water,
Yeah.
in various different locations, both in New York area and in Florida.
When I first moved here, I was a deckhand on a Mystic Whaler, and
Oh.
Frank, our cameraman, he was a captain of the Voyager.
I had
And
no idea.
We all go way back, and then when I left that, I was working on the fishing boats out of Stonington.
Right.
I was actually dockmaster on weekends, and then I'd go to, in the wintertime, I couldn't take it out there in the winter, scalloping and all that. I went down south and worked on the shrimp boats.
Right. Exactly.
But always loved being on the water.
Yes. And we can tell by the color of our skin is
Yeah.
dark from the sun. Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, that's once you get into this thing about loving the water, especially the ocean. Not there are plenty of Midwesterners and people from up north who love the Great Lakes and the Finger Lakes and all that other kind of stuff. But the ocean, it's hard to as many people as drowned in the ocean. It's harder to drown in the ocean with that salt. Literally, it helps to keep you floating. And it just gets into your blood, really, and you just don't want to let it go. So I married somebody who was interested in going to the
It's
lakes.
the same thing with like
lakes
everything
and
in
stuff.
life. It's like you're saying about that, or about music, or about food. It's an aspect of life and living around here that we all love, because it's just you got great ocean, great food places, and great places for music.
Exactly.
It's just a perfect place to live.
And it's not an accident. It's not an accident. I think the water, the ocean has long attracted artists of all kinds, visual artists. I've had a lot of visual artists who have come on my show, and they say they've been absolutely inspired. You drive around Mystic, or you walk around and you see all these little coves and stuff.
Yeah.
You walk around Westerly and go to Watch Hill and places like that. You see all these little coves and how you can understand how this stuff like that gets into your blood. And then there are people who clearly aren't going to live here who hate sand. I've met people who say, "Oh God, you get the sand in your toes. Ooh, that's fabulous." My mother used to say, "Go in the salt water, and it will cure you of all your ills." Which is, it must have worked for her because she lived to be 99.
Nice.
Good stress relief. Good stress relief.
Exactly.
It's funny though, because for some people, food is not what motivates them. It super motivates me. It always has. But I have a hard time having a conversation with someone when I'm so enthusiastic about something, and they just say, "What's the difference between that and Domino's, or that and a Dunkin' Donuts donut?" And then I know we're not even talking the same language. So, and while Dave was speaking so glowingly of these artists, I know you and I don't recognize every one of these names.
like none.
But we feel the enthusiasm. We feel the excitement. And one of the things I've noticed about Soundwaves that I respect so much is everybody that writes articles. They are huge fans of the topic that they write about, and it's an honor to be part of this family. So many of these writers have been around, part of this magazine for 20, 30 years, and here I am, the newbie.
That's like Mark Gould, that's written to me from the beginning. He was able to did a few articles on Poco, and Poco really liked him. Poco, for his 50th birthday, Poco took him around for 2 weeks as a roadie or whatever. And some of the music, and he appreciated there. It's like I had a friend that would come down and stay at my place, Rick Danko, the group, the band. I think he's got that picture up there.
Yeah, let's see the
Rick
band.
Danko?
But,
yeah, exactly.
But we used to have, after the shows, and my other roommate was Buddy Cage of the New Writers, and him and Dylan did Blood on the Tracks and all that. But when the shows were over, we'd be at my
Here we
place.
go. Is
That's Stevie Ray Vaughan.
All right, that's a close.
But Rick had come to the house and stay there. We had Buddy and James Montgomery. We'd all be sitting in the living room and about 6 of us singing harmonies, and everybody just playing away and having a good time. Yeah, there's Rick.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so you said you didn't play an instrument, but you sing.
That's it.
I didn't know that.
Well, I don't know if, I don't know how good it was, but
Were adult beverages
Usually about
involved?
2
You
o'clock in
sound
the
better
morning.
after some adult beverages. There you go. There's another good shot.
but we'd have, we just sit around, they'd be sitting around playing, and some of the music, it was like, they weren't playing for a paid audience, they were playing for their friends.
Right, exactly.
And it was just
exactly.
like, fantastic music.
Yes, definitely.
And we didn't have cell phones back then, and it'd be nice to have been able to record a lot of that stuff. Though at times it'd be nice to not have the video, the cameras
Yeah, too
record a lot
much,
of that
it's just
stuff.
like overload, right.
Hey, look who's holding a copy of Soundwaves.
That was our most popular issue. David Cassidy. It was a mistake issue too. It was like the cover that we had fell through. I said, okay, I'll run David Cassidy. Basically every state, people wanted the copies. Even a bunch of places in Europe wanted copies of that. And I was like, and that was our most popular issue ever.
Who took that photograph? You?
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. And why did he agree to be photographed and be on the cover? Is there a reason why?
I usually had backstage passes and everything for everything.
Okay.
And I'd show me to where to come. And back then, print was big.
Right, exactly, exactly.
And I got to know a lot of the people because before the magazine, like I said, I was a photographer. Mm-hmm. So I knew a lot of people through that. And a lot of them I met when they were just starting out, too.
Okay, so they actually were sweet enough to remember that you once knew them when they were no one.
Yeah. Well, it's like Anna Popovic. We were the first to put her on a cover of a magazine. And now she sells out 40,000 seat stadiums. I remember one time she did the Wolf Den, and we were down on the bottom there, and she sits next to me, and a bunch of people around says, David right here, I've known longer than anybody in this room. Because the first cover was like 2003.
Who is this author? Who is this singer that you're talking about?
Anna Popovic.
Yes.
She's a guitar player who's considered the female Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Okay.
She was the only woman to be invited to do on the Jimi Hendrix tribute tour.
Okay.
Ooh,
all right.
And she's from Croatia or Bulgaria.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's interesting. So, how did you actually find her, or how did she find you?
With this friend of mine, another writer, the guy basically helped me do the stories, and he does a lot with Bill Harriman, and he said, you got to check out this lady. And plus, she was absolutely beautiful. Mm-hmm. I mean, she plays in mini skirts and high heels.
Okay, all right.
And he said, you got to check out this woman, and she just blew me away with her guitar work.
Okay. And so she agrees to be on the cover?
Yeah, she's been on the cover like 3 or 4 times.
Oh, okay, all right.
But like, some of these people, they're big now. It's like Willie Nelson, on that, his warm, you only can take pictures of the first 3 songs. Well, his first act, nobody was like really paying attention. I said, this guy's pretty good. I'm gonna take some pictures of him. It was Alan Jackson,
Wow.
who became he's a
yes.
huge country star now.
Yes, I even know that name, yes.
But a lot of these people that, I met back then, a lot of them remember me from, things that before and everything. It's like, some of these people like Fleetwood Mac or ZZ Top or a bunch of other ones.
Wow, okay. That's
Yeah.
great. And do you miss being a photographer and traveling around with these
Yes and
groups?
no. I don't like I don't like the big crowded places anymore.
Okay, all right.
And back then it was film.
Okay.
It was a whole different story. Now it's all digital. Mm-hmm. You took like 7 rolls of film. I hope you got about 12 good pictures or 20.
Right. With the digital, you can take 1,000 and it doesn't.
Yeah, because it was you couldn't use a flash. They were moving around. You had to adjust the film, high-speed film, and everything. And if it was too much red light, film was a red base, so it'd be a lot darker. So you had to adjust to that. Mm-hmm. And everything goes real fast. But in a real life concert.
You're talking about a skill set that probably is now lost on.
But some of them, he probably doesn't have it up because we told him to take it off there, like the Tal Farlow one. A lot of the pictures I'll do when they were right at the very end, and I get a really good pose or when they stop for applause. The one at Tal Farlow, when he passed away, they blew it up and put it life size next to his coffin.
Oh my goodness!
It was just a perfect picture of him.
Right. Did his family know about it to even do it?
Oh yeah, they knew. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, he's a jazz guitar player that took the place of Charlie Christian, for jazz guitar players.
again, not
You made
something
an
I'm familiar
interesting
with.
statement about the changes of photography and really in publishing. All of it has changed.
Oh, yeah.
So I know that one of the things that surprised me is the photos of my food looked pretty good in print, but they're gorgeous on the digital format.
It depends, yeah, digital. But when I first started doing the magazine, it was paste up. We had a flat, you had to cut out the stuff, and you had wax, and then they took a picture of it and did it. And then we went to floppy disk, and then we went to the little zip drives, and now it's just on the internet. Put it up line, he downloads it into the thing. But I still got the very first flats of the first 2 issues of the magazine.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, you got those in framed?
Yeah, but I've kept I've got a storage area. I've kept at least 20 issues of everything we've ever printed.
Wow.
So that's like 32 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely, definitely. So how do you think well, let me ask you, how do you think the covering music is going to be in the future? I mean, are we expecting more changes and stuff to happen?
Probably, it depends. You know, it's like it's well, a lot of you know, you got the jam bands, you got the big crowds and all that, and but you know, I like the small venue places. You know, I hope that sort of goes more.
How do you feel about the people that are using social media to develop an audience before they even do anything close to playing a live venue somewhere?
Well, a lot of it, like I said, there's a whole new field coming out there, which I tried to get into during the pandemic, to try to have another income or base, is all virtual reality, which they're like, it's the metaverse. They call it the metaverse now, where you put on this headset and you'd be like, I'm sitting here looking at you and talking to you, and it's real time. And you're watching a concert? No, well, you could actually go to watch a live concert in virtual reality. They'll have cameras set up, or you know, we can do an interview. I'd be at home, you'd be somewhere, and we'd all be sitting, and we'd be like here, sitting around talking. And you can watch like basketball games, you know, on that in virtual reality. But it takes away from the interaction with people. You can interact with people in virtual reality, like talk to them and everything, and buy stuff, and that like I said, that's what the whole metaverse that Facebook and all is trying to do. But it's you know, you miss the interaction of like seeing music live. You can watch a band and you feel like you're like front row. You got the best seats in the house, but it's still not the same as being there. But that's where some music might go. It's like during the pandemic, people like Izzy Malek from Sugar or Dan Watson, they do live things out of their home and have a tip jar, and some nights they'd make like $500. You know, people would hit the tip jar and it'd come out of PayPal or whatever. And
Oh, isn't that interesting?
I had no idea that was even
yeah,
possible.
that's very interesting.
Yeah.
'Cause, talk about that virtual reality. I actually saw it on the TV. They actually did an operation of Siamese twins, their heads, on virtual reality. The children are in one part of the world, and the doctors, all 26 doctors, are in like London or something. It was the most unbelievable, and the European doctors are directing what to do for these children, and they did it. They accomplished it. It's just so the technology can.
the technology is there, and it's getting better. It's like Facebook and a bunch of people started what they call the metaverse, or starting like they in like 1 month they sold like $100 million worth of property in the metaverse, where it's not tangible, where you can touch it and all that.
Right.
But they saw, you know, you spend $10 million, but it's like big companies, instead of having to go to a place, they can all do it in one room from anywhere in the world. And it's just, and they have some pictures, like people are selling, you know, they only have the digital version, they don't have the original. That's why I'm thinking I want to try to get some of my photographs on there. Mm-hmm. And they paid up to like 10, you know, $2.5 million for one. I think it was, but you know, they get $30,000 or $40,000 for a picture, and they never own the picture. They just own the digital rights to the picture.
Wow.
That's a different change in the way things are going.
Yeah, it's things are, you know, it's the way music goes, and see how things go. And, you know, it's how much people want to get out. You know, like the pandemic hurt a lot of
yes,
businesses. Like
yes.
I lost 90% of my income for 2
Yeah,
years.
I can believe that, sure.
And it was like some people that stood by me, like C.C. O'Brien's or Pasta Fresca and, you know, Mananas. They said, David, we're not open, but we want to buy an ad because we want to make sure you're around. They did takeout only.
I'm curious, do you think that the print is going to last? I mean, do you think we're still going to have newspapers? Are we going to still have a paper magazine that we're going to touch and flip the pages over? Are they, is that like
I think there will always be a print.
You think? Yeah.
But it won't be, you know, it's not going to be as powerful as it was back then because of the internet. But it's like I have a hard time reading something like that. I grew up with books.
Right.
And I like the page. I like the feel of the page. I like
Right.
reading it. You know, putting a marker in or, you know, whatever. But and it's like basically this is what society is. It's like a simple thing. You pick it up, read it, okay, done. You know, and with a book, you have the book aside. You maybe pick it up once in a while to read it again or something.
But what happens when we're gone? I mean, you and I don't know how, we're probably close in age. Are our grandchildren? I don't even know if my children are interested in reading a book. Nobody in my family, outside of us, actually gets a daily newspaper anymore.
Yeah,
They
that was
don't.
the thing, reading the paper every day.
Exactly, exactly. It's the way my mother would eat breakfast, would be looking at the daily paper.
Yep.
Gone.
Yep.
Gone.
Fortunately, you still have to show up to eat food. And,
Yes, that's
Yeah.
right.
And those live concerts are still impactful. I've got a family member who.
It's going to be it's a more of a struggle now to create a living doing a print. Mm-hmm. You know, we were when print was big, but then the internet came around. But our internet, we do 20 to 40,000 people a month.
Right, right. So there's
You know.
a viable substitute. I mean, listen, the New York Times has been, the Daily News has been trying to sell online subscriptions rather than, and I get little feeds from like the Daily News every day.
Yeah, I do too. But then it's like some of these people out there that are potential advertisers. They go, well, we're on Facebook.
Right.
We don't have to pay. You know?
Right, right.
So it's like before it used to be everybody worked together, the musicians, the clubs, the restaurants, and you know the paper. We were one family, and we made sure everybody, you know, everything worked. Like I've never had contracts. It's always been I shake your hand or your word.
Right,
You know, that's how it's always been.
right.
And if somebody was hurting for a time, you know, there've been a few clients in 2008 said they couldn't afford it. Just don't worry about it. I got it. Just give me your ad. We all made sure everybody, you know, was going to survive and that we're, you know, stayed tangible.
There was a sense of community, and it still exists. I
Yeah.
mean, we felt it around here during COVID when things were shut down. We felt that sense of community. There were more people helping each other and more people being thoughtful about where to spend what little money maybe they had and what they cared about. And I remember specifically sharing a message about, you know, pick the top 2 or 3 businesses that really matter to you, and make sure you go patronize them now because they may not be around in 6 months or 12 months.
That was hard for a lot of people.
Well, some of it is actually, not much has been good because of COVID. And I can take it from someone who actually had COVID. Not fun. But there's been a few changes. Like, for example, we now can dine more on the sidewalk than we were, like Westerly. Westerly is a seasonal place. There, a lot of restaurants would like to have dining outside. Well, they now are allowing it to happen. Obviously, you're not going to, in December, you're not going to sit outside in Westerly and eat outside.
No, but it's nice to have the flexibility.
Absolutely.
You can always pick up Soundwaves magazine.
Yes.
It'll be on the streets. It'll be on the streets tomorrow.
Okay.
I think he has a picture of it that he can show up before we sign off, and
Yes,
so everybody will recognize it.
with our Grace Potter.
Grace Potter on the cover.
Yes, there she is.
Yep. And you can read Elizabeth's great food column.
Exactly, exactly. Well, we want to keep all this stuff alive. So I'm very happy to have both of you here on my show.
Thank you.
I wish Grace Potter lots of luck in Intergret Park.
Yep.
In her.
She's headlining it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. What's the dates again?
That's a Labor Day weekend.
Labor Day weekend. All right. Because this coming weekend at Ninigret Park, of course, is the seafood
Oh,
festival.
the seafood, Charleston Sea. Yeah.
Yes,
There
and
you
I,
go.
I might volunteer to make sure when you leave the premises, you get your hand stamped so you can come back in, and that you do not leave the premises with open bottles of anything alcoholic.
The enforcer.
Yeah, well, that's part of,
So
that,
you got to confiscate it, huh?
well, we're not allowed to do that. We just, most people are very nice and they literally just spill it out and keep on going. A few people who think they're coming back, and they don't always come back, leave us their beer. So yes, so I do that charity work because it makes money for Southern Rhode Island Volunteers. Shout out to them.
Yeah.
Great nonprofit who works to help seniors and the disabled stay in their homes.
Nice.
So they provide food and sometimes even some little kinds of services like shoveling snow and all that stuff. But, because most of these people are older and they just can't get around. COVID was terrible. We used to do things like just call people on the phone, find out if they needed anything, also find out if they're unhealthy, if they needed to be taken to a doctor or a hospital or something. So it's a wonderful organization. We've had them on the show. So Seafood Festival Sunday, Arthur and me, we will be there checking your bracelets to make sure you don't take that booze out into the parking lot.
And if you do, leave her a bottle.
Exactly.
But isn't it nice in a time when really budgets are so tight that we can pick and choose where our money is going to go the furthest, not just in terms of our own entertainment, but how it helps our community. Mm-hmm. I love that about this area.
Yep, very good.
Make a difference.
Well, like I said, we got a lot of going.
That's
It's
true.
The Guard Theater just got an award for being the best arts of its type or center in the country.
That is wonderful.
Yeah.
That is wonderful. So I want to thank you for being here, for all that great info, and we keep eating and getting that magazine, getting it off wherever you can find it on the shelves.
Yep.
And they can go online too. They can contact both of you.
Find out where to eat and where to go, have a good time listening
Exactly. So I want to thank everybody for listening to this show. Also, I'm still there. I'm the creative writing teacher at Pawcatuck Neighborhood Center. It's absolutely free. It's on Wednesdays at 11 a.m. So if you're interested in learning how to write or just want to have fun, that's what we do. We have lots of fun. We even go out and have coffee together. So come and join me at Pawcatuck Neighborhood Center, obviously in Pawcatuck, and you can join my creative writing class. This is Harriet Grayson, your host and producer for Community Culture Showcase. Come and see us again some other time, and enjoy the summer.